Shalom, family. Good to see you all here. Hope you're doing well. Well, since the summer, they have been projecting that Three Eye Atlas would go behind the sun. And around, I think they said originally the 17th of December, and now it's the 19th of December, that it will emerge from behind the sun and make its closest pass past Earth, and then I think it goes past Jupiter. So, anyway, there are a lot of people that are posting videos because they believe on the 19th of December, something is going to happen here on Earth. Or Three Eye Atlas is going to make a detour and come to Earth. So, there's quite a few that are in fear of that day coming. They think that it's not gonna be just an ordinary day. Something will happen on that day. But we gotta always keep in mind the Most High keep telling us we don't know the time or date, and we must trust him. So when these Gentiles it's just like the rapture. When these Gentiles set dates and tell you what's gonna happen, so far they're 0 for 0 because nothing they say ever come true. Nothing, absolutely nothing. They done went through what, 5, 6 different rapture days, and, we haven't seen not nary rapture yet. And now something is gonna happen, you know? And I think what they feel, Three Eye Atlas is gonna come here and start attacking people here on the earth, and that's what they're in fear of. But again, because they are raising the date of December 19th, I really truly believe nothing is gonna happen on the 19th. They're gonna be very disappointed. If the Most High come, it's gonna be in his own time, and like it says, he will come like a thief in the night. They're not gonna know nothing about it. When he does show up, they're gonna be caught completely off guard. You can best believe that. You think he's gonna let you prepare yourself for a fight with him? Come on. That that is never, ever gonna happen. So, I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen, and you can hear some of the things they're saying. They are really losing it over this whole thing, for real. Alright. Okay. Please give me a 1 if you can see my screen. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, so 3i Atlas is going to be closest to Earth on December 19th, which means there's still time. Please. I mean, I'm playing. I'm playing. I ain't placing no bets, but I'm gonna leave some bills hanging in the air until then.
So the Three Eye Atlas making its closest path to Earth on December 19th. I'll be honest, as an astrologer who doesn't normally get nervous about astrology, I'm pretty optimistic. I usually like to think of things as producing the best possible outcome. I will say I'm having feelings, and I'm having to really work to get myself to like not feel as nervous as I do about the astrology and astronomy of this, because there's astrology and there's astronomy, and when they line up in really weird ways, that's what makes me nervous. Because part of this is like the science actually shows that this is weird, and then the astrology is like this is very weird, and they're kind of weird in the same ways. So let's go over a few things. Okay, so the atlas, I would say the thing that like really made me perk up is that where the comet is headed from, where we know it came from, is the center of the Milky Way galaxy called the galactic center. That is the axis, like the rotational axis of the Milky Way center, the barycenter, and that is where the supermassive black hole is. So for all I know, like, did it come out of the black hole? It's going really fast. They say nothing can escape a black hole, so maybe it didn't. I don't know. But to me, the fact that it's coming near, anyway. So that would be weird, right? Coming from the galactic center of Sagittarius. Okay. But when it gets to us is when we are in line with the galactic center, the exact degree, 27 degrees Sagittarius. So that exact day, the sun is at 27 degrees Sagittarius. So that's weird. Okay. But also, we have a new moon in Sagittarius that day, making this the halfway point, the midpoint between eclipses. So, our eclipse axis right now is Virgo and Pisces. So, between that is Sagittarius and Gemini. So, we're having this at that midpoint of Sagittarius. So, that's weird. We also, the day that it comes closest to us, and again, it's not going to be that close. It'll be about as close as like Venus is to us. So, it's not supposed to hit us by their calculations. I mean, theoretically their calculations could be wrong, but I don't think it's going to hit. Like, that's not even my concern. That's not my concern. I want to make that clear. The comet, by the way, is, and also they're still arguing over whether it's an asteroid or comet because it has weird properties. So, I mean, they're pretty much like calling it a comet, but anyway. So the day that it comes closest to us in the 3 days before, we have a Sagittarius stellium, meaning that the moon, Mercury, Venus, and sun are all chilling out in Sagittarius, the constellation that this bad boy came from. So the other weird parts are that the comet itself displays some strange properties that they've been like, that we've not seen that before. So for example, they've found no indication of iron coming off of it, but they've found a lot of nickel. And normally there's like a pretty equal balance between nickel and iron coming off of these things. There's also like an incredibly high amount of C2 that appears to be coming off of it. And it's an amount that is not, they don't see, they don't really see that with comets. And they say possibly that it has been exposed to a mass amount of radiation, which, yeah, I think it would be if you were coming from near a supermassive black hole. So there's just some weird things about it. I really would welcome you to look up some of the weird science about it and why people are like, oh, that reason is unknown, or that is not something we've seen before. So I don't know. It makes me nervous, and I'm trying to just be like, it's a sign. I don't know. I don't know how to like honestly process that in a way that makes me like not nervous. I mean, I tend to be like, oh, probably nothing will happen, but it's been a weird week, you guys, and we're just starting to see the weirdness of what last week catalyzed. So for me, yeah, I'm processing. So
let me share some new information with you about 3i Atlas, information which you should not ignore. You know, the last time we talked, it was about those pictures of 3i Atlas that NASA was releasing. Yeah, about that. Oh boy. I'm going to cut to the chase right now and just tell you that they sucked. They were they were terrible. I'm sorry. It was a bad scene. NASA held their news conference yesterday on the 19th. It was long. It was boring. They produced two images that were worth anything. The big image that everybody was waiting for was supposed to be this nice, high-resolution, clear image taken by HiRISE of 3i Atlas. What we got instead was, well, the words blurry, fuzzy, soft focus come to mind. This is supposed to be the big picture. This is the one right here. This is 3i Atlas taken by the HiRISE imager, which is on that satellite that was orbiting Mars when 3i Atlas was the closest to Mars. This is the image that NASA has sat on for a month. Check it out. The fact that it is about 1 million times bigger than any comet ever encountered never even entered into their discussion. All right, here's another thing. Take a look at this image right here. Now compare an amateur image, which was taken only a few days ago by an amateur astronomer. So anyway, guys, I'm not going to drag this one out. NASA did what most people expected NASA to do. There are some very smart people, much smarter than me, who are keeping up with this. I recommend that you check out a guy called The Angry Astronaut. You will find him on YouTube. Also, geophysicist Stefan Burns, super insightful dude on YouTube. 3-Eye Atlas is still traveling toward the Earth, and it will make its closest approach to the Earth on December the 19th. If you've got a telescope, you'll probably be able to see it. I wonder what we'll see. Let me know what you think about all this in the comments.
And then there's the date that everyone's circling on their calendars, December 19th, 2025. On that day, 3-Eye Atlas will make its closest approach to Earth at approximately 1.8 astronomical units. That's about 270 million kilometers, far too distant to pose any collision risk. But distance isn't the issue here. What matters is observation. December 19th represents our best opportunity to determine whether this object survived its close encounter with the Sun, which occurred on October 29th, or whether it shattered into fragments, or whether something else entirely happened. The verdict we get on December 19th will fundamentally shape how we interpret this visitor. There are essentially two broad categories of outcome. The first is catastrophic natural breakup. In this scenario, the intense thermal and gravitational stresses near the Sun tore the object apart. What we're seeing now is the death throes of a comet, a massive debris field expanding into space, jets formed from the violent liberation of trapped volatiles as the structure disintegrated. This would be spectacular, certainly unusual in scale, but ultimately explainable within our current understanding of physics. Nature gone wild, but still nature. The second possibility is something far stranger. If 3-Eye Atlas arrives on December 19th intact, if it still shows a coherent nucleus with continuing jet activity, if it's still behaving as a unified object rather than a cloud of fragments, then we have to start asking very different questions. We have to ask whether this behavior represents controlled propulsion. We have to ask whether we're looking at something that was designed rather than formed. We have to ask whether the jets aren't jets at all, but exhaust. Before we spiral into speculation, let me be clear about something. The default assumption in science is always natural explanation. Comets are strange. They surprise us. The universe is far more inventive than our imaginations. Every time we've encountered something anomalous in astronomy, from pulsars to fast radio bursts, the answer has eventually proven to be exotic physics, not extraterrestrial engineering. The odds heavily favour a natural explanation for 3-Eye Atlas, even if that explanation involves comet behaviour we've never documented before. But odds aren't certainties, and the scientific method demands we remain open to wherever the evidence leads. So what's coming in this investigation? We're going to unpack the geometry of these jets, understanding why their structure and orientation matter. We're going to examine the composition of the material being ejected, looking for chemical signatures that might tell us about this object's origin and nature. We're going to compare 3-Eye Atlas to previous interstellar visitors, seeing what patterns emerge and what stands apart. And we're going to explore both the natural and unnatural possibilities, laying out the logic chains without prejudgment. Because on December 19th, when the world's most powerful telescopes turn toward this visitor, we need to know what we're looking for and what it means if we find it. Part 2. Sunward and anti-sunward jets, structure, intent, or accident. Let's talk about something that keeps comet scientists awake at night: directionality. When you look at a typical comet, you see a relatively simple structure. There's a nucleus, the solid body at the center. Around it forms a coma, a diffuse cloud of gas and dust. And streaming away from the sun, pushed by solar radiation pressure and the solar wind, you get the classic tail. Sometimes there are two tails, a dust tail and an ion tail, but both point generally away from the sun. This is Comets 101. This is what we expect. 3-Eye Atlas doesn't follow this script. The images from November 9th show multiple distinct jets, not a simple diffuse coma. These jets are collimated, meaning they're narrow and focused rather than spreading out in all directions. Some point directly away from the sun, which makes sense, but others point toward the sun, fighting against the relentless outward pressure of solar radiation and the solar wind. This anti-sunward component shouldn't persist. It should be blown back, dispersed, overpowered by the forces pushing outward, yet there it is, maintaining its coherence across nearly 1 million kilometers of space. To understand why this matters, we need to think about what creates jets in comets. Natural outgassing tends to form relatively broad fans or plumes as subsurface ice heats up and escapes through cracks or weak spots in the crust.
Avi Loeb, renowned theoretical physicist, Harvard professor, head of the Galileo Project, joins us once again. Professor Loeb, always wonderful to see you. And let's start with this. I mean, you are one of the most outspoken voices pushing for these images from NASA. They're convinced it's just a comet. Are you convinced?
Thanks for having me, Natasha. Well, the verdict should not be decided by administrators at NASA. It should be decided by the data. And in fact, the best image that they offered at the press conference indicated that there is fuzz elongated. There is some glow in front of the object in the direction of motion, not in the direction of the sun, as we might expect from evaporation of pockets of ice as a result of illumination by sunlight, or the push of the gas that comes out of those pockets of ice opposite to the direction of the sun. Instead, we see it perpendicular to the direction of the sun, in the direction of motion. And the question is whether this is a beam of light or a beam of particles that are used to clear out any micrometeorites that might be impacting the object as it moves forward. So to me, it raises more questions than it answers. And then I just calculated today that, in fact, 3i Atlas gets near Jupiter on March 16th, 2026, at a distance which is exactly identical to the distance inside of which Jupiter's gravity dominates over the sun's gravity. And this coincidence is to within 1 part in 26,000. Quite amazing. It's remarkably exactly the right distance for Jupiter's gravity to dominate when 3 Atlas comes closest to it. And in fact, the non-gravitational acceleration that was reported after it came closest to the sun, there was some push that was noticed in its trajectory, some slight deviation from the original path is needed in order to bring it exactly to that location. So by now I have even more puzzles, and the fact that NASA ignores the anomalies that 3 Atlas had, meaning the very small likelihood that it lies in the plane of the planets around the sun, and its very large size, 1 million times more massive object than the first interstellar object, you know, that obviously allows them to make a very confident statement that it's a comet, but I'm still very intrigued by these anomalies.
Wow. Okay. I mean, it did feel like a very confident statement from them. I want to pull this up on the other side because you pulled no punches when writing about NASA's certainty on Medium. You write, quote, imaginative scientists master the humility to learn something new from anomalies rather than display the arrogance of expertise. Those are scientific fighting words, Professor Loeb.
Well,
What specific anomalies right now are standing out to you the most that you want NASA to be more open to?
Well, the most important ones are the large mass of this object. We don't expect such a massive package to be delivered once per decade into the inner solar system, given the mass reservoir of rocks in interstellar space. They didn't even get to that. Then, of course, the fact that the trajectory lies in the plane of the planets. And finally, what I realized today, that it comes exactly at the right distance from Jupiter for Jupiter's gravity to dominate. So if it wants to release some probes near Jupiter, that's where it needs to be. And just think about the fact that humanity, the human species, emerged on Earth only over the past few million years, whereas this object probably started its journey billions of years ago. So Jupiter is easy to recognize, the biggest planet in the solar system, and perhaps that's what attracted their visit. We tend to think that it's all about us.
Professor Loeb, I have to ask quickly, is there anything in particular you still want us to do scientifically when 3i Atlas is closest to us?
Yes, we see 7 jets coming from it based on the latest images from amateur astronomers. And I would like to know the speed of the jets and the composition of the jets, because that would tell us whether it's naturally produced. These jets are produced by pockets of ice illuminated by sunlight, or if the speed of the gas in them is much greater, it would imply a technological thruster associated generating each of these jets.
Every time we speak, it provides so much scope for the imagination, and I'm so glad you're asking these questions. Professor Avi Loeb, great to see you. Thank you.
Good morning from Thailand. Well, where are we at with this three-eye atlas? There's a lot of talk online this morning about those images and that they probably should have been a lot clearer. Who knows? One of the things that I'm amazed about in my research this morning is that we've got other things going on, especially in the United States. And I think that a couple of things are going to be happening on the same day, which is kind of miraculous, wouldn't you think? December 19th, Three-Eye Atlas will be at its closest point to Earth. And it just so happens that these files that we've been waiting for will be dropped on the same day. Is that a coincidence? Or is this by design? Look over here. Well, that's over there. Who knows? We might be distracted. And then those files won't matter. Who knows? Let's see what happens with this. This is all for entertainment purposes only, and your guess is as good as mine. Peace out. Late.
The acceleration that defies explanation, but the impossible blue color was only part of the story. While Atlas was performing its impossible color transformation behind our star, something else was happening, something that may be even more significant for our understanding of what we're actually observing. David Farnokia from NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, a navigation engineer with a PhD in mathematics from the University of Pisa, detected non-gravitational acceleration during perihelion. And we're not talking about a small perturbation. We're talking about 135 kilometers per day squared of radial thrust away from our star, plus 60 kilometers per day squared transverse, perpendicular to the solar direction. These aren't trivial forces. This isn't statistical noise hidden in error bars. This is real, measurable, directional thrust occurring exactly at 1.36 astronomical units from our star, right at perihelion, right at the moment of closest approach when we couldn't see what was happening. Now, comets naturally accelerate all the time through what we call the rocket effect. Sublimating ice creates gas jets that push the comet like tiny rocket engines. This is completely normal and expected. But here's what makes Atlas different, and why this discovery is keeping some of the world's best physicists awake at night. To produce 135 kilometers per day squared of acceleration through normal rocket effect, through normal gas ejection from a sublimating surface, Atlas would need to be losing mass. A lot of mass. Dr. Avi Loeb did the analysis. Everyone was thinking but hesitating to publish. Using conservation of momentum, one of the most fundamental laws of physics, place and 20 determined, that for an object of Atlas's estimated size and mass to generate that much thrust, it would need to be losing approximately 10% of its total mass over the course of a month. 10%. Let that sink in for a moment. This isn't gentle evaporation of ice crystals in space. This is catastrophic mass loss. This is the comet essentially exploding, ejecting billions of tons of material in a continuous hurricane of outgassing that should create a massive, bright, absolutely unmistakable cloud of gas and dust around the nucleus. A cloud that should be visible across the solar system. A cloud that every telescope should easily detect when Atlas emerges back into view in November. As Loeb stated his prediction crystal clear, we should see a dense gas cloud around it in November and December. Not might see, not maybe we'll see, should see. Because if the non-gravitational acceleration is being caused by natural cometary outgassing, then the laws of physics, specifically conservation of momentum, require that this cloud exist. It's not optional, it's not uncertain, and if we don't see that cloud when Atlas emerges in November, it's misleading the public about how science works and what the evidence actually shows. Loeb's response was equally direct and much sharper. Cox is like a cave dweller who finds a telephone and calls it just a rock. Real scientists play on the field guided by data, while commentators sit on the sidelines repeating popularity contests. But safe positions don't lead to revolutionary discoveries. They lead to confirmation of what we already believe. But Loeb argues that when you have 9 documented anomalies in the same object, when the cumulative probability of all these anomalies occurring naturally drops below a certain threshold, you have a scientific obligation to consider alternatives, even uncomfortable alternatives, even alternatives that sound like science fiction. The data trapped in space, There's a spacecraft out there right now that has already seen everything we're waiting to discover. ESA's JUICE probe, Jupiter Icy Moons Explorer, made its ATLAS observations between November 2nd and 25th, 2025. Multiple instruments, cameras, spectrometers, particle sensors. The craft was perfectly positioned to observe the comet in the immediate aftermath of perihelion, during the critical window when any massive outgassing from the unexplained acceleration should still be visible, still creating a bright and expanding cloud of debris that would be unmistakable in the data. JUICE saw it. Whatever is happening with ATLAS right now, whatever state it's in as it moves away from our star, JUICE has already captured that information. The photons have already hit the detectors. The data has already been recorded. The observations are complete. And we won't know what they show until February 2026. 3 months. 3 months of waiting while the most important data about ATLAS sits in a computer memory aboard a spacecraft that's too far from Earth to send that data quickly home. 3 months of speculation, debate, analysis of older observations, and growing frustration among astronomers who know the answers they need have already been collected but are completely inaccessible. The reason for the delay isn't mysterious or suspicious, it's purely technical. JUICE is currently about 2 astronomical units from Earth and moving away. At that distance, radio signals take approximately 16 minutes to travel in each direction. The craft uses its main high-gain antenna as a heat shield during certain parts of its trajectory, which means it has to rely on the smaller medium-gain antenna for communications. The medium-gain antenna has a much lower data rate, everything slows down, scientific data is prioritized and queued. Observations are transmitted in the order they were made, with the most critical information sent first. For those just arriving at the ATLAS story, let me tell the complete journey of this extraordinary object, a visitor from another star system that is rewriting our understanding of what's possible in the universe. The billion-year journey, ATLAS, was discovered on July 1st, 2025, by the ATLAS Detection System in Hawaii, initially cataloged as just another asteroid until it became clear this object was something far more extraordinary. It was coming from interstellar space, traveling at an impressive speed of 61 kilometers per second, nearly double the speed of Oumuamua, the first confirmed interstellar visitor. Working backward on its trajectory, astronomers determined that ATLAS began its journey an incredible 7.5 billion years ago, departing from a region near the constellation Lynx. To put this in cosmic perspective,
It seems like these scientists are really disagreeing with each other, but I know they were really mad at NASA because, the government shut down, they switched all the cameras off, and they really didn't have to do that, y'all. They really did not have to switch the cameras off, but they knew it was something they did not want to be seen. Then they came back and said they were going to show pictures, and they showed all these fuzzy pictures, and most of the ones they showed, everybody already saw when the government was shut down. And all they did was it was 4 white scientists that just kind of repeated each other. And why so many white scientists? Where are, the melanated one? Because y'all got melanated scientists, because I've seen some of them. But, when it's something of a big news nature, y'all will put them in the back and throw all your white scientists out front. We know what you're doing. So anyway, ladies and gentlemen, they don't know what's going to happen. All they're doing is speculating. And do you really believe the Most High is going to allow them to figure out 3I Atlas? He's not. And not to mention, a few days ago, I heard it turned back to blue. It turned green and it's now blue again. And comets don't do that. Comets do not change in color like that. So, and they said it was not impacted by the sun. Most comets, once they get around the sun, they will start breaking up. because it's mainly just ice and rock. So they'll start breaking up. It stayed intact. It's almost like it was getting stronger from being near the sun. So they don't know. They don't know any more than we do at this point. So we'll see. But me, I'm not riding too much on the 19th. Now, people may have the ability to see it, but as far as it coming here and there or some kind of invasion happening that day, I don't believe that. I don't believe that at all. But we shall see. The 19th is really not that far away. We're at the very end of November now. So almost anything can happen at this point. So, y'all, I'm going to go ahead and conclude. And I got one more final live stream that will be coming up where 60% of American people are on the verge of a financial collapse. So we're going to talk about that. So I will see you then. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for your support and have a wonderful evening. Shalom, family.